Hello, my name is Michaela Barrett. I'm a Senior Program Manager on Microsoft Lists. In this session, we will cover how to organize business information with Microsoft Lists. The next 40 minutes will be spent demonstrating the incredible new offerings we have in Microsoft Lists and the best ways for you and your team to utilize the product. With me today, we also have Niket, who will be getting us started.
Hi, my name is Niket, and I'm a Senior Program Manager with Microsoft. Today we'll be talking about Microsoft Lists. Microsoft Lists is your Microsoft 365 app that helps you track information and organize work. Lists are simple, smart, and flexible, so that you and your team can remain on top of things that matter the most. You can track issues, assets, information, inventory, and more via customizable views and smart rules so that everyone can remain in sync. With ready-to-use templates, you can either start online or on our new mobile app or on Microsoft Teams. And because it comes with Microsoft 365, you can rely on enterprise-ready security and compliance. Today, Michaela and I will be talking about a scenario where we are expanding our team. And I'm super excited to hand over to Michaela to show how Microsoft Lists can be used for the same. Over to you, Michaela.
Thanks, Niket. Niket and I are expanding our team, and we're in the process of hiring 6 to 7 more people. Right now, we've jotted things down in Excel, emails, team chats, etc. But we really want to turn this hiring experience into an intelligent and automated process to help us stay on track and informed of each of the candidate statuses. To do this, we will use Microsoft Lists.
So as you can see, I am in my Microsoft Lists app on Lists Home. From here, I can access all of the lists I've created, lists that have been shared with me, and lists that are already being used by my team. We can see I even separated out my favorite most frequent lists by starring them and adding them to my favorite section. To get started, I'm going to create a new list. From here, I have a few options. I can create a blank list and start from scratch. I can import a list from Excel, or I can create a list from an existing list. Additionally, I can use any of the 8 new templates being offered. When I click on the templates, you can see a preview of what type of content you can create inside of these templates, and you can click around to get an idea of which one might be right for you. For my scenario, I know that other teams in my company have already used lists for hiring. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new list from their existing content. I see down here, there's a hiring list that I can start working from, and I'm going to use that. I'm going to rename this list for me. And I'm going to choose a custom color with an icon that means something to me and my team. Now, when I create a list from an existing list, I can use all the schema and formatting. So as we land here, you see the columns already appear. To add data quickly in my list, I'm going to enter our grid mode for inline editing. The first thing I'm going to do is rename my title field to candidate's name. And this way, we all know what's supposed to go in this field type, and I can drag it out. And so let me go through and actually just add one of the first candidates we have, Apollonia J. Jeffrey. The interviewer who is hiring and working with her is my coworker, Lydia. The contact information is just the candidate's name at Gmail. And this candidate has only completed 1 interview. Her next up interview date isn't until October 12th at 9 a.m. So I can save that. And she has not yet had an offer extended. And so we can see that I added the content for this candidate, and we already have the formatting and everything that I would expect to see there. For the other 14 candidates we're interviewing, I created them in an Excel spreadsheet. So I'm going to go ahead and just paste them in here so we can see them getting saved. So now that we have all of our content in here, I want to view this data in a more uniform way. We can go up and choose to look at this in the fixed height row. When I do this, all of my columns and all of my rows become the same height, which makes it very easy to quickly glance at this list. I can expand my notes section so it's easy to see what we're talking about with each candidate. And this is very easy to view as I drag, and we can see the sticky column keeps my first column in place so that I never lose the reference point on where I am in my list. While I'm over here, I see that I have a candidate that I'm in charge of, Kay. I'm going to go in, add a couple of notes on him. Let's get him hired. And while I'm in here, I accidentally select all of the text and delete it. This now saves that deletion. And so I am super excited to show a new feature that we've added for when this happens. I can now undo this change and get back the content exactly as it was before I accidentally changed it. We now support up to 100 undos and redos while editing your list. And this is supported across all field types. So for example, if I went in and I changed the 3 interviews to only 2, and the interview date was not September 2nd, but September 22nd, and I hit save, I realized this actually wasn't the right candidate I meant to be updating. I can just do Control-Z once and Control-Z twice, and I now have all the content for that candidate back to the way that it's supposed to be. So this is a super awesome feature that lets you edit your lists with confidence that you're not going to lose data or accidentally change anything. My list is looking pretty good so far. I have my data in here, I have a lot of really helpful information, but I'm missing a very critical column. I want to add a column that will track the status of each candidate. To do this, I'm going to create a choice field. The name of my choice field will be status, and I'm going to update my choice options with the different statuses we have for a candidate through our interview process. So we have pending interview, interview scheduled, pending feedback, and I'm going to add 2 more choices for if there was no offer made or if there was an offer extended. I'd like the no offer to appear as red and the offer extended to appear as orange. So I can hit save. And we now see this column appear. This column is very important, so I'm going to drag it over so it's right next to the candidate's name and one of the first columns we see. I can now go through and update the status of each candidate. For our first candidate, she is scheduled for an interview. Our second candidate had an offer extended, and our third candidate is pending feedback. I can type ahead in the new choice field to choose different options that I have. Additionally, if I'd like to remove one, I can simply click on it and it will be removed. To see everything, we can expand it a little bit bigger, and you can see the X to remove it, or you can simply click it back there. To edit quickly, we can drag to fill, but I realized not everyone has an offer extended already, so I can simply use my undo to change that and go back in and edit them one by one. Now, as I continue filling out this list, we will see the status grow. But before I do that, there's another column that I would really like to add to this list. And that would be an image column so that we can see the face of the candidate within this list. To add the image column, I can select image and I can name it candidate headshot and hit save. We now see that the candidate headshot column was added. Again, this is super important, so I'm going to drag it over so that it is the leftmost column. And to upload these photos, I can edit the list item, and I see a candidate headshot field where I can add an image, and I can take images from my computer or my OneDrive, and I can add them to this list. And so after I upload multiple images, we can land on a list that looks like this, where we have the images added, all of the different statuses updated, and a completely filled out list with all of the different candidates we're interviewing. With all my data in this list, I'm going to start leveraging views to create different visualizations of my content so I can work quickly and keep track of each candidate easier. I'm going to leave the grid since I've already had all of my editing done and completed. Now, the first thing I want to do is narrow this list down to the candidates who are still pending interviews. So I want to go in and filter by only the candidates who have not completed all 3 of our rounds. So I'll go to them who have 0, 1, and 2. Now, additionally, I want to be able to see how many interviewers on my team have of the candidates. So I can go into the interviewers and I can group by. And so when I do this, this shows me really quickly how many each person on my team is responsible for. So we have Megan interviewing 2 people, I'm interviewing 2 people, Grady only has 1, and I can get a quick glance of what exactly my team's doing across this hiring process. And I can expand them if I want to. Now, within each group, I want to make sure that the interviewees appear based on when their next interview date is. So to do that, I'm going to go to the next interview date column and do newer by older so I can actually see the interview dates appearing in the right order. Now I'm going to go ahead and save this view so that whenever someone comes to my team, they can access it. So I'm going to call this view Candidates Still Interviewing. I'm going to make it public so that my entire team can see it. And the reason I'm creating this view is so that when someone comes here, they don't have to redo all the filtering and grouping and sorting. They can just start working in the list. So I can hit save, and it's super easy to switch between views where I can just do the drop down. I can go back to my all items view where we're in grid and we can quickly edit the content, or I can switch right back to the candidates still interviewing to get a crisp understanding of who has interviews left and which candidates have not yet completed our cycle. Now in this view, I sorted by date. I want to do even more to draw attention to that next interview date. And to do that, I'm going to format this column. I'm going to format the dates by editing the styles. And so one thing that's very important for my team is we want to have all of these candidates interviewed by October 20th so that we can make a decision. So I'm going to go ahead and say that if the interview date is after that October 20th, I really want it to appear in red so that our team knows we've scheduled someone a little too late for what our goal is. If the interview date is today, I would like to leave it as green because then we could quickly look and see who has an interview going on when. And if the interview date is before today, I'm not very interested. I'm going to leave it as empty. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save. And we could see in the list that Grady has an interview going on today. And if we scroll down, Thomas being interviewed by Nestor is scheduled way later than what we want our goal to be. So this is super easy to tell me that we need to do a little bit of action on this list item to make sure that we can get him scheduled properly. I have my list in a great start with all my content added, a couple of views to help get my team started. And the last thing that I want to do is share this list with my team so that they can start working and get updated very quickly on what's going on with this process. To do that, I'm just going to simply click the share button in the list, and I'm going to share this list with Nestor and Niket so that they can begin working inside. Now we see that I have 3 options when I share this list. The first is full control. This will allow Niket and Nestor to configure different columns, to create views, to update each item and have full control within this list and have the ability to actually share it with more people. Edit control will not let them share it with the rest of their team or other people, but it will allow them to add or edit items. And then of course, if in your scenario, there's a need to just give someone view where they don't edit anything or share anything, you can also do that. For my scenario, I really want Nestor and Niket to be able to configure more views that are more meaningful and really drive process across their teams. So I'm going to go ahead and hit full control, and I'm going to notify them with an email and grant access so that they can start using all of the hard work I just put into my list.
I just demoed a lot of material. Let's take a quick recap on what we saw. First, we saw Microsoft List Home. From the home, you are able to access all your lists. With the recents and favorite sections, you can find your content easily. I then demoed the ability to create a list in My Lists, so the content belongs to you until you share it with your team. This list creation had multiple ways to get started, including our 8 new templates with quick out-of-the-box formatting and schema, and the ability to create a list from Excel, from an existing list, or from a blank list. Additionally, we are releasing an iOS app so that you can do all of your work from anywhere. We next went through the list and edited the columns, the different items, and added formatting. First, we worked inside of Grid View, where you were able to edit your data faster than ever with an inline editing experience. From here, we saw new people, choice, hyperlink, date, time, and Boolean field editors. Additionally, I demoed the ability to undo or redo your content. And just to call out again, we will support 100 undos or redos. Additionally, we had a lot of features that made it easier to view your content with things like sticky column, sticky header, and the ability to fix the height or adjust the height of the rows to be an auto size. Additionally, when we were adjusting the columns, we showed the ability to rename that title column without breaking anything else across the Power Platform or any other columns. And then we showed off 2 new column creation experiences. The first was that choice field creation with the out-of-the-box pill rendering, so that it all happens at once on the creation, so that your content looks beautiful from the start. And then we went through and looked at the new image column, where you could actually add content directly to the lists. And then we went through and formatted how the list looks to make it look beautiful and tailored to my needs and my team needs. To make the list even more productive for my team, we created multiple views to get started. First, we filtered, sorted, and grouped by to create tailored views to the exact need of our scenario. And then you watched me share my list with Niket and Nestor so that they're able to collaborate inside of that list with me. Additionally, we have the ability to share individual list items if you're not trying to share the entire list. As you can see on the slide, that list item sharing uses the familiar link sharing, where you're able to set passwords, expiration dates, and determine if anyone can see it or only specific people. Once I shared that list with Niket, he can now come in with his full control and start being productive.
Thank you, Michaela. I noticed Michaela has shared this list with me, which has details about all the candidates and various statuses each candidate is on. Now it would be great if we can create certain views specific to the interviewer and the HR director. So let us dive deep to understand how we can create these views.
It would be great to create a view with date as a tracking tool so that we can map all the candidates as per their interview schedules. For this, let me go to all items and click on Create New View. This gives me 2 options, List and Calendar. List is the same type of view which I already have, and Calendar will be the ideal view which uses date column as a tracking mechanism. Let me start with entering the view name. Next, I get to choose the start and an end date. Of all the available date columns, since I want to create a calendar for all the interviews which are lined up, it's best I choose next interview date as the column. And I would keep my start date and end date as same. As I'm going to share this view with multiple people and I want them to have access to this view, it's best I keep this view as public. If I click on more options, I'm prompted to choose the field that I want to see on an event inside a date cell. For now, I would keep it as title, but I could have chosen any of the other fields which are available and part of list schema. I click on create. And what I get over here is the modern calendar view on top of list. I land on the current month, which is September 2020, and I'm there pivoted on the current date, which is 9th September. I notice I've got an item which is Jeff's interview. And I also notice that on 30th of August, Sarah's interview has already happened. Let's figure out what interviews are lined up for next month. I click on October and I see there are five to six interviews which are lined up for October as well. If I have to go move ahead and see what's scheduled for November, I notice there are no interviews scheduled for November. I click on today to go back to September and I notice that this month is still pretty empty. Maybe I can move ahead and pull back an interview to September to ease my October. Let's reschedule Ishwar's interview to somewhere in September. Let me reschedule it for 17th of September. Let me go to today. And I notice, yes, Ishwar's interview has been scheduled on September 17th. I also notice if I select the item, I can perform all the actions like edit, share, copy link, comment, delete, automate, which I could have performed very well on the list view as well. This is the ideal view that I would want interviews to land upon to figure out which all interviews are scheduled. Now I want to create a view for the hiring director so that we can identify which stage a candidate is, as well as identify the candidate via their headshot images. For that, let me start with applying group by on status column. What it does is it groups all the candidates depending upon their statuses and shows that what is the number of candidates in each status available. Now let me go to view drop down and create a gallery view. The moment I create on gallery, I notice that each item is represented as a card with metadata represented inside, as well as the headshot images as preview. If I click on it, I get the gist of all the interview details specific to the candidate Jeff. I can quickly do edit in case need be. I also notice that group by that I applied on list view is intact on gallery and the candidates are group by accordingly. This looks great, but I still want to edit certain metadata inside each of these cards, which may not be too relevant information for the HR director. For that, let me go to all items and click on format current view. I get edit card as an option and I get to choose what kind of data do I get to see on card. So it would be great to have preview of the interviewer along with the name. I don't require candidate contact, so I'll remove it. It would be great to have completed interview rounds and maybe move it a little above, just below status. Also, let me move interviewer details at the bottom. Now this looks good. Let me save this and close the panel. Now this looks the ideal place wherein I have metadata as well as right information on the card for the HR director to make calls depending upon statuses of the candidate. Now I want the HR director to land on this view default whenever he clicks on all items. For that, let me go to save view as and click and save gallery as the default landing option for all items. Now let me automate few things on the list so as to draw attention to the right items. First, it would be great to have a reminder sent out to the interviewer whenever the candidate's status changes to no offer. For that, let me go to automate and click on create a rule. Here I have four options: notify someone when a column changes, or a column value changes, or a new item is created, or an item is deleted. Since I want to send a reminder to someone whenever the column value changes, I'll choose this option. Inside, I land up in an if then else state wherein I have to choose when my status is no offer, then I would love to have an email sent out to the column which is interviewer. This says when status is no offer, send an email to interviewer. This sounds right. I'll click on create. Here I land upon a panel which is my rules management panel, and it says the same thing: when status is equal to no offer, send an email to interviewer. I think this is great. Secondly, I would like to draw attention to certain items which are pending feedback and especially pending on Michaela. For this, I would like to highlight this row. I'll go on all items and click on format current view. Here I get two templates which is alternate row styles and conditional formatting. I'll enter conditional formatting and it auto creates first of the rules which says that I can format the complete view. But I don't want to format the complete view, I just want to format a particular row. So I click on it. I choose the column basis which the row will be selected. So I say when the status is equal to pending feedback and when the interviewer is equal to Michaela, then I'll color code the row to a different color. Now that looks like right. So next time when Michaela lands on this list, she'll notice this particular item highlighted and she'll be able to get the queue on pending feedback. Also, I remember Jeff's got his interview, so let me remind her of that too. For that, I would like to comment on this item. If I hover on the item, I notice this sign which says add a comment. I click on it and I land on the item form along with the comment pane. I'll quickly write over here. The moment I do this, a message has been stored with the item. Also, while Michaela lands on the list, she'll notice Jeff Bell's item has a comment on it. If she hovers, she can notice there's one comment. Click on it and she'll get the message. I think this makes the list complete and she'll be notified of pending things.
Like we just saw, list comes along with a calendar view, which can be rendered on any list with just a single date column type. This makes list an ideal system of apps that uses date as a tracking mechanism, be it a vacation calendar, a task list, an event planner, and even more. Although you need a start and an end date, but you can just render calendar by a single date column type. On the second part, we saw the gallery view. Gallery view is a special type of view which renders a list item inside a card. Card which is customizable. You can drag drop items. You can pick and choose the previews that you want, be it for a people or an image column. That makes this view impeccable for maybe your contact list, inventory list, and asset library. Rules on list. People can easily set reminders to keep themselves and their teammates up to date. Microsoft lists come along with if then else statement with simple UI where people can optimize the management of list and list item. People can build condition and value changes. This includes the ability to send notifications to specific people or even a column which is containing details about people. Collaboration and commenting. The best lists are like the best documents. They are the culmination of work of multiple people and contributions across team. We will soon launch the ability to add mention people inside a list item, directing them to update status or missing information inside a list. Right now, list comments are stored inside a list item, which is available across teams as well as web. Now let me hand over to Michaela to see how we can further enhance the experience.
With Niket's conditional formatting, it was super easy to see that I'm supposed to provide feedback for a candidate I already interviewed. I'm going to jump back into my list and get that information added so that Niket and my team can stay up to date.
In this list, I see the highlighted item that I need to update. I can open up the form and see the list item and all of its details. Now, before I update this item, I want to customize this form in the list so that everyone who's looking at it can edit it easily. So when I go into this drop-down, I have the option to edit columns. I can rearrange the way that they appear, make status first, and I can choose if I want to hide any of them by simply selecting or deselecting. So I'm going to just remove that candidate detail. Now I want to make the form a little bit more intelligent by applying logic using conditional formats. So I only want the notes section to appear if the interviewer is the one opening the form. So I can go in and I can edit this conditional formula. With an if statement, I can determine that if the interviewer is me, then the notes appear. So when I save my changes, we see that I am indeed the interviewer, so the notes are appearing. If I navigate to someone who is a candidate that's not being interviewed by me, we can see that I am not able to see their notes inside of the form. Now, the next thing I want to do is make this form look beautiful. So if I go back into the candidate that I need to update, I'm going to drop down and I can configure the layout of this form directly inside of lists. When I open this, I want to point out that we have 3 sections that are able to be highlighted: header, body, and footer. In the header, I really want to focus on the candidate's name and make the styling match my theme. So I can do this by applying JSON. Now note, all the JSON that I'm using here is available in links that I'm showing at the end of the presentation. When I hit preview, we see that now the name appears with the image I wanted, and it's calling the title, and it's in the purple color that is the theme I'm using for this list. I'm going to save that. For the body, I would like to remove the need to use a scroll bar. So I'm going to create multiple columns by applying the JSON as well. And when we preview this, we'll see that I now have 2 columns, so that when I open the form, I don't need to have everyone on my team or myself scroll through. They can see all the content right here. So I can now go in, edit this, and say, okay, did great. Let's hire. And I hit save, and then I'm going to update the status to hire, offer extended, so that everyone knows that we have updated his notes and updated the status. And when I save this, you'll actually notice that the formatting went away on the item because I've updated. It's no longer pending feedback.
In this demo, I showed a lot of new customizations you can do with the list form. Easily show, hide, and reorder columns. You can configure a form with logic by leveraging conditional show hide. In the demo, you saw how certain fields will only appear if a specific value is applied in previous fields. And then lastly, we made this form beautiful directly inside of lists. I created a custom header with my JSON-based customizations, and I added multiple columns in my form so that no scroll bar was needed with the JSON adjusting the body. In this new form, you have the ability to separate out the header, body, and footer of the form to make it match your needs. Now, my coworker Niket loves Teams, so I'm going to hand it back off to him so he can show you how all of the awesome stuff we just demoed can be used with the power of Microsoft Teams.
I love working in teams, and with lists and teams together, it will be very convenient to check statuses of all the candidates in Teams itself. Let me start by adding lists to my teams. I'll go to Sales Leadership General Channel and click on Add a tab. This presents me with all the apps that are available inside Teams, and I also notice Lists as an app is available over here. I click on Lists,
and it says save to tap the list tab. Now list app is already tapped in my channel and it presents me with two options, either to create a list or add an existing list. If I go to create a list, I'm presented with options like create from blank list, from Excel, from existing lists, also from all the templates that are available on list home and some more templates inside Teams. But since my new candidate list is an existing list, I'll click on add an existing list. An existing list could be added via two ways. One is via the list link. If I have a SharePoint link to the list, I can quickly just paste it over here and tab it, or else from any of the teams that it is available. I notice new candidate is available right over here. I click on it. And just like that, I have my list available inside my channel, just as the way it was available on the web. And remember that all items were supposed to render in gallery. It's rendering absolutely right in gallery. I customized the layout of the card where I enabled certain previews, reordered certain columns. It's absolutely like that. And if I click on any of the items, all the layout settings on the form are retained, formatting is maintained, and I can quickly edit anything that I want to edit with respect to the candidate. What I can also do, I can quickly go to the drop down and choose list to give me a list view of all the candidates as I would have loved. Also, I remember group buying on status column. Let me ungroup over here and see whether that's reciprocated. It's seamless and working like it should have worked in web. Now with least amount of context switches, I can remain productive inside Teams too. Right, like we just saw, lists and teams go hand in hand. We provide full fidelity. Whatever we can do on list web, we can absolutely do it inside list teams. Be it creation of a list from scratch, from an Excel or from an existing list, even through a new functionality which uses ready-to-use templates, that's absolutely possible inside Teams. Creation of views, lists, grid, gallery, calendar, anything is possible inside Teams as well. Also, rules notification formatting remains seamless and coherent across web experiences. All you need to do is you need to just tap a list inside a channel and you're ready to go for the least amount of contextual switches for the user. Let me hand back to Michaela to answer certain frequently asked questions. Over to you, Michaela.
To end this session, I want to address common questions we get on Microsoft Lists. First, Microsoft Lists is an evolution of SharePoint Lists. That means that it's the same infrastructure. As well as if your team is already using SharePoint Lists, they will appear in your list home the day you start using the new list app. Second, Microsoft Lists is not a task app. Third, personal lists are stored in a person's My Site. This is similar to how OneDrive files are stored, and we like to point this out because it can be a little confusing where that content is stored when a user saves to My Lists instead of a team site. This product will be available for commercial and government clouds, as well as education. The product has started to roll out, and we are in 50% of first release, and the Lists mobile app will become available later in the year. The rules feature that Niket demoed is not based on Power Automate. The integration with Power Platform continues, but the rules that we showed are not through that Power Automate tool. And then lastly, the comments that you can leave on a list item are stored in the list schema. So when you have that list anywhere, your comments will remain attached to that list item. If you would like to learn more about Microsoft Lists, please check out these additional resources available. Thank you so much for watching today. I hope to see you using lists soon.
Thank you everyone for watching the video. I hope you found it useful.